my honor to introduce our first speaker for today. Dr. Angelyn Lao is currently an associate professor in the mathematics department at DLSU University. She joined DLSU University in 2013 after the completion of her doctorate degree in systems biology at Rostock University, Germany. Prior to this, she studied mathematics at DLSU University and University of the Philippines, Diliman. She continues to involve herself in Alzheimer-related research. She is working on a mathematical model that relates type 2 diabetes and Alzheimer's disease. She is a part of an interdisciplinary project that aims to model the metabolic aspect of Alzheimer's disease on ketone body. Aside from interdisciplinary projects that aim to model the metabolic aspect of, aside from Alzheimer-related research, she started to venture into other fields of biological research problems. Together with her students, they built a stochastic model that mimics the behavior of the resistance protein in plant pathogenesis. She also got interested in modeling coffee, cacao, and cancer genes. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome Dr. Angelyn Lao.
Pleasant morning to all of you. So today, I want to talk about how mathematical concepts and principles can be used to solve complex real-life problems. I want to share actually my first-hand experience in my interdisciplinary works and studies that I have been done in some of my research. Particularly, I want to share the role or the important role mathematics play in doing interdisciplinary research studies, and how perhaps we can let our students appreciate the beauty and art of mathematical modeling. So I think this topic is quite timely and trendy. How trendy? Because if you are aware of some of the external funding agency, usually when you apply for grant proposal, they actually require that your proposal is something interdisciplinary. So I think this talk is timely and also trendy. Okay. So the mouse is sensitive, so I have to use the... Okay. So the outline of my talk, I will start with by discussing the role of mathematics in the interdisciplinary modern world, and then the essential components of that's needed in doing interdisciplinary research, and some of the challenges you might face in doing interdisciplinary studies, and then it will be followed by a presentation of a simple case study or simple case problem, and show how different disciplines can collaborate in the given problem and share their perspective to better describe the problem and perhaps eventually propose a solution for the problem. And then I will end it with a summary and conclusion. Okay. So there has been a widening of usage and appreciation of modern mathematics techniques as an effective tool among a variety of disciplines, especially in biology, in engineering, and in computer studies. It attracts researchers, especially those who are have a strong interest in interdisciplinary research. They tend to collaborate with other people, other researchers or scholars working on other disciplines. And mathematics is playing an important role in interdisciplinary studies. Why is that so? This is all due to the globalization and development of new technology. With this, the problems that we are facing are becoming more and more complex. And for this reason, as educators, as researchers, as scholars, we actually see the urge or need to redesign our program in higher education. And we want our students to be prepared to cope with the complex situations that they might face after graduation. Okay, this we realize in most of the programs we have also in our universities or colleges. You will realize that there are very few colleges or universities that offer pure mathematics program. Okay, most of the program now, aside from being a math major, you're specialized in something, like major in finance, major in business application, or major or specialize in computer application. So why interdisciplinary? Okay, let's look at the picture. So this picture actually came from a famous epic story from India. Okay, given an elephant, there are 7 blind men touching the elephant. Okay, so let's focus on the blind man, okay, touching the elephant's nose. So this man actually thinks that he's touching a snake. Okay, it's actually good that he's not scared of snake because he's touching it like it's a huggable. Okay, so he thinks that it's a snake. Okay, and then let's look the other man who's touching the elephant's leg. Okay, he actually thinks that he's hugging a tree. Okay, so they're all wrong. We all know that they're all wrong because we see the complete picture, but they don't. They only see a part of it. Okay, they're all wrong because they're only touching a part of the elephant, and they have no picture or they have no idea of the bigger picture. Okay, so in the situation we have now is something like this. Okay, so in the disciplines that we have, they were designed not to address the complex problem or situations. Although they have partial insights, we don't argue with that. Okay, they provide absolutely essential insights to understand the individual aspects of the complex situation. Okay, each academic disciplines, whether it's biology, physics, math, engineering, economics, okay, these are all, they only study a subset of the elements, okay, of the complex situation. They try to find the connections among these the subsets that they are studying. Like in math, you also have different area or field. You have game theory, graph theory. You also try to connect them and try to use this concept from mathematics to study the problem. But still, this is not enough. You're only producing valuable you're producing valuable information or insights, but you're only producing partial insights of these complex situations or problems. Okay? So the task of identifying the connections among these subsets studied by different disciplines and creating a common ground or field that these disciplines can work together, integrate their insights in understanding this complex situation, this is done by interdisciplinary studies. So as reported in an article written by William Newell, in Liberal Education, more and more scholars actually see the importance of interdisciplinary studies as a key element in surviving, for the students to survive this dynamic world. Okay. Interdisciplinary studies may be defined as a process of answering questions, solving problems, and most importantly, to address complex topics. Okay, by single disciplines or professions. So it draws on disciplinary perspectives and integrate their insights into a more comprehensive perspective. Okay. Basically, that's what interdisciplinary studies is all about. So problems in engineering, computer science, and physics, or in engineering, in biology or biological sciences, we know that they are using more and more mathematical techniques or tools in their studies, right? And in my work or my collaboration with biologists, I realized that they are actually using more and more sophisticated mathematical techniques. Some of them I don't even know. I have to study them before I can answer their problem. So there are actually several problems that involve difficult mathematical concepts that they, even I, cannot give meaning to, that I need to study. But for them to study the concept, it will be harder than me studying the concept as a mathematician, right? So in that case, they really need mathematicians, okay? They really need mathematicians to help them understand how the techniques they're using can be applied to the problems they have. Okay? So in engineering, usually it's like a black box. They know their problem, they know there's a tool that can solve their problem, they just input their problem, and then what they only want is an interpretation of the solutions for their problems. They might care for the solutions that happen inside the black box, but they don't have the capability because their training, based on their training, they have this understanding the concepts behind the mathematical techniques or concepts integrated in that black box. Okay? So you have that black box, but the trend now is to change that black box into white box. You want it to be transparent. So how can you make that transparent? You have to collaborate. Okay? Now, it's not a problem if you have a journal article and then you have different people from different disciplines as co-author. Okay? It doesn't matter. It's a paper. Does it count that you're only doing 1/3 of the work? No. When you submit the paper to your university, you said, okay, I have one publication. It doesn't matter how many authors are there in that publication. So the trend now is you collaborate. Okay, you try to make whatever studies you have as transparent as possible. Okay, so to appreciate the complement or the complexity in interdisciplinary studies, let us visualize. We can visualize it through this illustration. So how? You imagine that every people sitting around the table are actually people coming from different disciplines. Okay, so they're trying to have a dialogue, and they want to examine one simple or one complex situation. But when they try to look at that problem, they actually is looking at that problem on their own ivory tower. Okay, so since they have their own training, they have their own disciplines, they are standing outside the complex situation, looking at the problem on their own angle. So if they have their own tower, they're actually looking at the problem on their own perspective. Okay? So what's the job of an interdisciplinary piece? Okay, so you see different aspects because you're from different disciplines. So interdisciplinarians, the one who will be the mediator of these disciplines, will visit each ivory and collect all the perspective or the ideas or insights you have in your own specialization. And then what he will do or what it will do is it will collect them, and then you cannot just collect and then do it right there and there. Like the elephant. If you look at the elephant, if you're very close to the elephant, you cannot see the elephant. What you should do is you have to step back, right? And able to see the elephant, a bigger picture of the elephant. So that's what interdisciplinary, if you're doing interdisciplinary work, that's what you have to do. Collect, but at some point you have to step back, okay, to see the bigger picture of the complex situations, okay? So that's what you do in doing this interdisciplinary research, okay? So mathematical concepts, like what I mentioned earlier, I keep repeating it, it have been increasingly used and appreciated as an effective tools among a variety of disciplines. And interdisciplinary mathematics is a field of mathematics that merges math expertise with proficiency in another disciplines, usually sciences, business, medicine, or engineering. If you notice, our colleges and universities also offer interdisciplinary mathematics, like what I mentioned earlier. Okay, because in the past, employers have to actually train our math majors, enable for them to cope with the positions they will be holding in the company. But the current program we have in higher educations actually prepare our students to cope with these complex situations. Okay, to share some insights. Our math majors actually, from their feedback, they didn't have any difficulty in finding job after their graduates. Those who graduated majored in business applications. Okay, because of their training, okay, they can easily find the job. For those who delayed in setting in a job position, just because they want to relax or have a break before they have a job. But if they pursue in finding a job, they actually didn't have any difficulty. It's because of their training. Okay. Okay. In particular, interdisciplinary mathematics usually appear in the form of modeling. Okay. So when we collaborate, usually our role is to model the phenomenon or describe the existing behavior of the system. Okay? So the art of modeling. So I call it art because you really need an creative mind and articulate hands or thinking enabled to do some modeling. So it might not be for everybody, but it's not that difficult. Because if you look at this picture, for example, you have an egg. Okay? So what modeling do, if you have an egg, what you try to do is think, what is the content of this egg? What is the variety of this egg? Is this a duck egg or chicken egg or whatever? Okay? So by understanding what the egg is or the problem is, okay, you try to establish a model by putting all the information you know about that egg. Okay? And then, with the model you build, you optimize the parameters. Like for example, how many feathers do I need to put in my model? Okay? Do I need to put 2 legs? How many claws? Or maybe I want to put 3 legs to make it an extra with extra feature and etc. So you try to optimize the parameters involved in that model. Then after you optimize it, okay, you have a projection of the model. Like in the illustration, you have the egg, and what is the projection? The bird drawn by the painter. Okay? One of the most common areas of interdisciplinary mathematics is applied on biology. So for mathematical modeling, there are modeling for social and life sciences, okay, for food processing, for physiological biology, for biology, molecular biology, and even in image analysis. Okay, even in image analysis. Okay, in finance mathematics, you actually use these studies focusing interpreting global financial markets, interest, investment, and perhaps risk management. I think that's the famous research or position you can have in a corporate, right? A risk analyst, or people also have financial engineering. Okay, these are all heavily disciplines. All need heavy mathematics. Okay, you need to have strong foundations in mathematics. Okay, I came across with this interesting book. Okay, it's a mathematical modeling of zombies. Okay, this author is actually very interesting. Why? If you notice, in his last name, he put a question mark behind his last name. Okay, because he said there's so many Robert Smith. How can I differentiate myself from the other Robert Smith? Okay, so in all of his publication, he put a question mark behind, okay, his last name. So anyway, what his book is all about is he tries to use the zombie situation. So what we know is the zombie kills the human, right? And the human has to find some way to enable to escape the attack of zombies. Okay. So he tried to visualize that using mathematical modeling. Okay. What he hopes is by understanding how to combat zombies, you will see a wide variety of modeling techniques he used to combat zombies, okay, which are actually applicable to real-life situation. How? You actually need some imagination. You have to associate what will be your zombie in that problem. Is that the company trying to attack or kill the poor farmers? That will be your parameter 1, something like that. Okay. So you try to associate the variables in the real life to the existing models that he built in his book, for example. And some of the mathematical techniques discussed in this book includes how to build mathematical models using differential equations, and how to establish individual-based modeling, even introduces zombie swarming. Okay? So it's up to you how to identify zombie swarming. So I think this is related to statistics. Okay? And then he also show how statistical estimation, okay, and fuzzy decision making, network theory, discrete time method models, spatial diffusion, and etc. Okay, okay. His discussion or his idea of using mathematical modeling for zombies actually is featured in the series named or called Doctor Who. Do you know it? Have you watched all the episodes? If you are a follower of Doctor Who, then you will know that at some point of the soap or series, they actually mention this mathematical modeling of zombies to combat the zombies. So in general, what we have shown is that we can use different areas in mathematics to study or understand, describe other problems in other disciplines, like in business, biology, what else? Chemistry, engineering, computer science, and etc. So for example, you can use coding theory to study genetic codes. Okay? You can use graph theory to analyze the network of a system. Okay? And then you can also use ordinary differential equations to describe the behavior, the dynamical behavior of a system. Okay? These are some examples. So what are the essential elements that we need, okay, in doing interdisciplinary studies? Okay? One famous person who's doing a lot of research or publication in relation to interdisciplinary research process and theory is Angelyn Lao. Okay? He said that in interdisciplinary studies or research, what you want is actually to identify conflicts between the insights of different disciplines. Because usually what happens is given a same term, okay, it might mean different in physics and math. So when you collaborate, it's important that you have a common understanding of what you meant on that term. Okay? And then that is by creating a common ground, you integrate the insights of different disciplines, and you produce and test an interdisciplinary understanding of the given problem. So what I just mentioned earlier can be summarized into these 4 techniques. Redefinition, like what I said, you have to make sure that you're defining the same term, you have the common understanding of the terms that you're using in your study. Extension is given that you have you create this common ground by extending a concept you know from one discipline and extending it to the concept in another discipline. For example, sustainability. So when you heard of sustainability, you usually associate that to environmental studies, right? But recently, this term is also used in studying in papers published under economics journal, okay? Or even in discussing, what else is that? In indigenous cultures, okay? So they also use these terms. So perhaps we can integrate all these disciplines to study sustainability in different perspective. So at the end, what happened is either you come up with a major paper, research paper, or you can actually have 3 different papers with all of the people working on disciplines as co-authors. Okay, you either publish 1 or you can multiply it into 3. Okay? And then you also organize, okay, by organizing the thoughts. You don't argue. If you have different, you don't compete. You try to collaborate. So that's the thing in interdisciplinary. Instead of competing, you collaborate. Okay, you complement, you reinforce. Okay, and then lastly is transformation. Okay, you try to connect them. Okay. So basically what you do is you try to put different pieces of puzzles from different disciplines, okay, and try to complete the puzzle, okay, by putting your own share. So what is the advantage of interdisciplinary studies? Okay, to our students, they will inquire the following skills. Okay, when you're doing interdisciplinary research, you tend to be more, you tend to think more systematically, okay, in solving problems, in designing and constructing models. Okay. You also develop the skills of knowing to ask the right question, okay, inquiry. Okay. Because it's important to ask the right question and able to solve the problem correctly. Okay. And then, of course, the students will learn how to do analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Okay, what are some behaviors that the students will inherit while doing interdisciplinary work? Okay, they become risk-taker, self-directed, persevering, lifelong learner, you become passionate. You have to be passionate in whatever you're doing. You become creative, and you also become more respectful to others because you're working as a group. Okay, you have to respect the other disciplines, and you tend to be more cooperative because you're not working alone. Okay? So what are the challenges? Okay, if you want to do interdisciplinary research, usually this is very difficult. Why? Because you're working with different disciplines, and for different disciplines, they also have different culture. They have different way of working, so it's not actually easy to work with other disciplines. You need to be humble, you need to be understanding, you need to cooperate. Okay? I'll share one example I have when I'm doing my, back in Germany while I'm doing my PhD dissertation. So in our group, we usually collaborate with biologists or chemists. We cannot work alone because we need data for simulations. Okay? However, in our group, not everybody is successful in collaboration. So usually when I actually first arrived, they told me that, Angie, you have to be prepared. You might not get any data. Okay? Because they're very slow in producing their data. They might not give you the data that you want, and your model might be crashed, or you might not finish your dissertation. You should have to think of an alternative solution or alternative model that you will survive without data. So I said, okay, I will consider that. I will keep that in my mind. Okay. But at the end, so there are other projects who did not get any data from their collaborator. That's true. So it did happen, but luckily it didn't happen to me. Okay. So the reason is we make sure that, or I make sure, because usually the PhD students is the one coordinating with all the boss. So actually I have 4 boss, 2 biologists, 1 engineering, and 1 physicist. Okay, so I have to interact with them. I have to coordinate with all of them, and then I have to integrate all the communications, and then give them a summary report of what happened, and this is what we have to do. So luckily, in our project, we had a good communication. Perhaps because Filipino, we are more hospitality, or we are more friendly. So I think my collaborator tends to like me. So they actually invited me to their laboratory, and they told me that, Angie, your engineers, physicists, you always complain that we don't produce data. We produce poor data. You come to our lab. You work in our lab, and I'll show you that it's not easy to produce the data. Okay, so do not complain. Okay, I want you to appreciate what we are doing. So I was there in the laboratory for almost 2 weeks, and then I said, yes, this is difficult. Okay, I will not push you that hard, but perhaps we can work together, and try to do something and make use of the data that you produce. So you compromise. Okay, so that's what most of the challenges you have in this